Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: MPF members should diversify for volatile year of the dragon. Bangladesh, a bastion of female empowerment, lags on democracy. We all have a duty to ensure our teenagers are safe online. Asia stocks nudge higher, dollar steady ahead of U.S. inflation report. Japan stocks to rise, U.S. futures dip before CPI, markets wrap. MPF members should diversify for volatile year of the dragon. South China Morning Post. Analysts and pension experts have warned Hong Kong's Mandatory Provident Fund, MPF, members to diversify their investments during the Year of the Dragon, to prepare for the financial twists and turns it might bring. The warnings come after the MPF lost 4.7% in the Year of the Rabbit, following an 8.6% decline in the Year of the Tiger. Ada Kung, chief investment strategist at Sun Life Asset Management, said the fund's performance would be less attractive this year, with generally positive returns from equities and lackluster performance by fixed income. Bangladesh, a bastion of female empowerment, lags on democracy. Nikkei Asia. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has become the longest-serving female head of state in the world after achieving a fourth consecutive term in a recent general election. Hasina's political career has been defined by her rivalry with another female leader, former Prime Minister Khalida Zia. Both women have led the country's development and progress, with Bangladesh now ranking 59th out of 146 countries in gender equality. The country has made significant strides in empowering women, due in part to political and economic factors. On the political front, the constitution has mandated a parliamentary quota for women, while on the economic side, Bangladesh has seen a rise in the global garment industry. The industry now employs 4 million people and accounts for over 80% of the nation's exports. However, while the country has made progress in terms of economic power and gender equality, it has also seen a decline in democratization. Bangladesh has fallen in the World Bank's annual rankings on democratization and has seen a deterioration in democracy, despite its economic development and the rise of the urban middle class. We all have a duty to ensure our teenagers are safe online. South China Morning Post. The internet can be both an educational and dangerous place for young people, and all stakeholders must collaborate to ensure children's online safety, according to Yelena Xu, a counselor at the University of Hong Kong Center for Suicide Research and Prevention, and Paul Yip, director of the Hong Kong Jockey Club Center for Suicide Research and Prevention. They said the responsibility to educate young people on how to navigate the internet should be shared between parents, educators, social workers, and regulators. Asia stocks nudge higher, dollar steady ahead of U.S. inflation report. Yahoo! Asian stocks and the dollar are both steady ahead of a U.S. inflation report that could shape the Federal Reserve's rates outlook and determine when interest rate cuts will occur. Bitcoin remains strong after crossing $50,000 for the first time in over 2 years, thanks to a rise in inflows into exchange-traded funds, ETFs, backed by the digital currency. Singapore Straits Times Index climbed 1% to 3,253.01. Japan stocks to rise, U.S. futures dip before CPI, markets wrap. Bloomberg. Japanese stocks are expected to rise as markets reopen after a holiday, while U.S. equity futures edged lower ahead of inflation data. The yen remained little changed on Monday, trading at around 149 per dollar. SoftBank Group Corp will be in focus after further gains for ARM Holdings, in which it holds a stake. In other news, the European Union has proposed trade restrictions on about 24 firms, including 3 based in China, that are accused of supporting Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. Bitcoin touched $50,000 for the first time since December 2021. Sanction spread, the Bloomberg Open, Asia edition. Bloomberg. The European Union, EU, has proposed trade restrictions on 3 Chinese companies for allegedly supporting Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. The list of entities facing new sanctions also includes companies registered in Hong Kong, Serbia, India, and Turkey. Meanwhile, Nvidia briefly overtook Amazon's market value before falling back, and U.S. stocks struggled to gain traction ahead of data that is expected to show further disinflation. In other news, the priciest multi-strategy hedge funds are keeping most of the profits while clients shoulder the costs, and the Fed's Michelle Bowman and Thomas Barkin have both commented on disinflation and the need for rate cuts. Furthermore, an article discusses the potential consequences of President Trump's comments about NATO, and another article looks at Indonesia's President Joko Widodo's economic legacy. Finally, e-commerce app Temu spent big at the Super Bowl in an effort to win back U.S. shoppers, running 6 ads and offering giveaways. Observed sales for Temu have been falling in recent months. Hong Kong can look forward to spring with an air of hope. SCMP opinion. Hong Kong's financial secretary, Paul Chan Imopa, has expressed optimism about the city's economic recovery in the Year of the Dragon, citing an expected fall in interest rates and favorable conditions. However, the prophecy of a fortune stick drawn during an annual ritual suggests that Hong Kong is trapped in a forest and needs more precise policies to boost its economy. The fortune stick's interpretation emphasizes the need for the city to stabilize its real estate and finance industries before developing the innovation and technology sector. Chan's remarks about the importance of consumption and improving the quality of services align with the fortune stick's message. Overall, both Chan and the prophecy suggest that Hong Kong can expect greater stability and should remain hopeful for a better future despite the challenges it faces. Next, Indonesian president has to focus on job creation. Nikkei Asia. Whoever wins Indonesia's presidential election will be faced with a country still facing fundamental economic challenges. Under President Joko Widodo, Indonesia has seen an increase in GDP per capita over the past 10 years, and rating agencies have upgraded their assessments of the government's creditworthiness. However, foreign direct investment has stagnated, and job creation for the country's 189 million working-age adults remains a challenge. The next president will need to focus on boosting formal job growth and increasing the utilization of Indonesia's labor endowment. Wine and lobster on the table as trade minister meets with Chinese counterpart to discuss tariffs. ABC. Australian Trade Minister Don Farrell plans to request the removal of trade blocks on Australian lobster and wine during a meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Commerce Minister Wang Wintao, at the World Trade Organization conference in Abu Dhabi on February 26. China imposed tariffs on Australian wine in 2020 following a diplomatic fallout between the two countries, but these are expected to be lifted next month. If they are not, Farrell said Australia will resume its World Trade Organization dispute. The meeting will also address the issue of several Australian abattoirs still suspended by China. The lobster industry is also awaiting the removal of the Chinese ban, but no indication has been given of when this may happen. China was previously the largest market for Australian lobster, and the industry has struggled since the ban was put in place. Other markets have been sought in Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Singapore, but these have not made up for the lost Chinese market. Data suggests that Australian lobster is being imported into China through back channels, such as Hong Kong and Vietnam. Hong Kong Lunar New Year bounce boosts restaurants, but one owner to shut outlets. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong restaurants experienced a surge in business over the Lunar New Year holiday due to a drop in the number of people traveling across the border to eat out. However, some restaurant owners are concerned about the uncertain economic outlook and plan to shut down outlets this year. The average spend per diner has increased as the industry raised prices to cover rising costs. The boost in business has been attributed to fewer Hong Kong residents traveling to mainland China for shopping and dining sprees. EU proposes curbs on 3 Chinese firms for aiding Russia. Bloomberg. The European Union has proposed trade restrictions on around 24 companies accused of supporting Russia's war efforts in Ukraine, including 3 Chinese firms. If imposed, these would be the first restrictions on Chinese firms since Russia invaded Ukraine. The list also includes companies from Hong Kong, Serbia, India, and Turkey. The restrictions would prevent European firms from trading with the listed companies. The EU had previously proposed listing several Chinese firms, but these proposals were dropped following resistance from member states and after assurances were given by China. Lu Folak posts 4th fastest time in Hong Kong 4 Trails history. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong's Lu Folak has won the HK4TUC Hong Kong 4 Trails Ultra Challenge, with a time of 52 hours 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Lu finished almost 4 hours ahead of his nearest rival and posted the 4th fastest time in the event's history. The race covers 298 kilometers of the city's 4 main trails, with runners also ascending 14,500 m of accumulative elevation. Lu, who quit his job as a chef to fund the race, said he had targeted a sub-50-hour finish. Authorities should hand out vouchers, extra allowances to Hong Kongers. South China Morning Post. 2 Hong Kong organizations, the Federation of Public Housing Estates and the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, DAB, have submitted separate petitions calling for the provision of consumption vouchers and extra allowances to be included in the upcoming budget. This comes despite an expected deficit of 100 billion Hong Kong dollars, $12.8 billion. The organizations argue that such measures are necessary to stimulate the economy and support society during the pandemic. The budget will be unveiled on February 28. Joycean antics show Parliament needs new stream of consciousness. The Sydney Morning Herald. Former Australian Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce's recent public fall from grace indicates that he may be unwell and require assistance, according to an opinion piece. Joyce's wife, Vicky Campion, accused those who witnessed the incident of failing to help him and criticized the brutality of modern-day celebrity. The article argues that the incident highlights the lack of progress made by Australian politicians in addressing cultural issues. The Bridge Builder. Foreign Policy. The U.S. Defense Department's Technology Accelerator, the Defense Innovation Unit, DIU, is playing a critical role in helping the country adopt new and emerging technologies into its military. The DIU is located in Mountain View, California, near Silicon Valley giants such as Google, Tesla, and Apple. The agency's recent appointment, Doug Beck, spent 13 years at Apple before joining DIU. The organization is working to bridge the gap between the commercial tech sector and the military and reduce the time it takes for technology to make its way onto the battlefield. DIU is already working on various projects, including procuring new unmanned underwater vehicles for the Navy and creating an AI-enabled planning toolkit called Stormbreaker for Indo-Pacific Command. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Dr. Six, your resident observer from the 6 dimensions. Today, I bring you a collection of news stories from around the world. Let's dive in, shall we? In Hong Kong, analysts are warning members of the Mandatory Provident Fund, MPF, to diversify their investments in preparation for the Year of the Dragon. With the fund's performance expected to be less attractive this year, it's important for investors to be prepared for any financial twists and turns. Moving on to Bangladesh, the country has made great strides in empowering women, ranking 59th out of 146 countries in gender equality. However, it has seen a decline in democratization despite its economic development. It's a reminder that progress in one area does not guarantee progress in all areas. Child safety online is a shared responsibility, according to experts at the University of Hong Kong. Parents, educators, social workers, and regulators must collaborate to ensure young people are educated on how to navigate the internet safely. In the world of finance, Asian stocks and the dollar are steady ahead of a U.S. inflation report that could shape the Federal Reserve's rates outlook. And in Japan, stocks are expected to rise as markets reopen after a holiday. The European Union has proposed trade restrictions on 3 Chinese companies for allegedly supporting Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. This comes as Nvidia briefly surpassed Amazon's market value, and U.S. stocks struggled to gain traction. Hong Kong's financial secretary has expressed optimism about the city's economic recovery in the Year of the Dragon. However, a fortune stick drawn during an annual ritual suggests that more precise policies are needed to boost the economy. Indonesia's next president will need to focus on job creation, as the country still faces fundamental economic challenges. While GDP per capita has increased under President Jokowi, foreign direct investment has stagnated, and job creation remains a challenge. In Australia, the Trade Minister plans to request the removal of trade blocks on Australian lobster and wine during a meeting with his Chinese counterpart. The lobster industry is particularly eager for the Chinese ban to be lifted, as it was previously the largest market for Australian lobster. Hong Kong restaurants experienced a surge in business over the Lunar New Year holiday, thanks to fewer people traveling across the border to eat out. However, some restaurant owners are concerned about the uncertain economic outlook and plan to shut down outlets this year. The European Union has proposed trade restrictions on several companies accused of supporting Russia's war efforts in Ukraine, including 3 Chinese firms. These would be the first restrictions on Chinese firms since the conflict began. In sports news, Hong Kong's Lu Efolock won the HK4 TUC race, covering 298 kilometers of the city's 4 main trails in just over 52 hours. It's an impressive feat and a testament to his determination and endurance. Lastly, 2 Hong Kong organizations have submitted petitions calling for the provision of consumption vouchers and extra allowances in the upcoming budget. Despite the expected deficit, they argue that these measures are necessary to stimulate the economy and support society during the pandemic. And there you have it, a snapshot of the news from around the world. Now, it's time to hear from you, my wonderful audience. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions? Let the discussion begin. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.